Drop the act. I know who you are. I think you're mistaken. I've never met you before. You ruined my life, and you moved on like nothing happened. I made a mistake. I was young.
They say you can tell when a marriage is in trouble. Raised voices, cold silence, broken trust. But nobody tells you that sometimes a marriage can look perfect and still be rotting from the inside. I learned that the hard way.
The mistress in my marriage. My name is Amora Cole. To the world, I had the kind of life women prayed for. A successful career. A beautiful home. A husband people described as every woman's dream. When we walked into events together, people smiled and whispered, "They are such a perfect couple." I smiled back every time. What they didn't know was that perfection is often just good acting. Daniel, my husband, wasn't cruel. He wasn't violent. He didn't shout or cheat openly. He was simply distant. We slept on the same bed, but our conversations stopped halfway. We ate dinner together, but our minds were always somewhere else. Sometimes, I would talk, and he would nod without listening. Sometimes, he would sigh like he was tired of something. He couldn't explain. And sometimes, I felt like I was slowly losing him, without knowing what I had done wrong. It started on a normal evening. Daniel came home late, loosened his tie, and said casually, "Work has been crazy lately." I nodded. I was used to that. Then he added,
"There's a new colleague at the office. She just joined the team."
I didn't care. Or at least, I thought I didn't. But then he smiled. Not the polite smile he gave strangers. Not the tired smile he gave me. A different one. "She's really understanding," he continued. Easy to talk to. Something tightened in my chest. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, husbands were allowed to have colleagues. But that night, as we lay in bed, I watched him scroll through his phone and smile quietly. I wanted to ask who he was texting. I wanted to ask why his happiness felt borrowed. But instead, I turned my face to the wall and swallowed the question. Because sometimes, fear is quieter than curiosity. That night, I dreamed of a woman standing in the rain. Her face was hidden, but I could hear her crying. "Why did you do it?" she asked me. I tried to speak, but my mouth wouldn't open. I tried to move, but my feet were heavy. Then she lifted her head, and before I could see her face, I woke up. My heart was racing. Daniel was asleep beside me, peaceful, unaware. I hadn't thought about my past in years. Some memories are buried because they hurt too much to keep alive. But that morning, as I brushed my teeth, one thought refused to leave my mind. What if the past never forgets? Over the next few days, I noticed small changes. Daniel guarded his phone. He stayed back at work more often. He laughed more, just not with me. When I asked if something was wrong, he said, "Nothing. You worry too much." And maybe I did. But intuition is not madness. It is memory whispering before danger speaks. One evening, as we ate dinner, Daniel said,
Leela suggested a new approach for the project today.
Spoon slipped from my hand. Lila. The name echoed in my head like a scream trapped in silence. I laughed awkwardly. "Lila?" I repeated. "Nice name." Daniel nodded. "She's really something." That night, I sat alone in the living room, staring at nothing. Because somewhere deep inside me, a door I had locked years ago was beginning to open. And behind that door was a betrayal I thought had died. I didn't know it yet. But the mistress in my marriage had already arrived. Some people walk into your life quietly, no noise, no warning. But somehow, they shake parts of you you didn't even know were awake. That was how Lila arrived. After that night, Daniel mentioned her more often. Not deliberately. Not like someone trying to confess. Just casually. Lila said this. Lila thinks that might work. Lila helped me see things differently. Her name slid into our conversations, like it had always belonged there. And every time I heard it, something inside me stiffened. One evening, Daniel came home lighter than usual. He laughed while telling me about work. Not the polite laugh, the real one. I watched him closely. That was when I realized I hadn't seen that smile in months. And somehow, it didn't belong to me anymore. The invitation came unexpectedly. A small office gathering. Nothing formal. "Why don't you come?" Daniel suggested. "Meet some of the team." I hesitated. I didn't know why, but my chest tightened. Still, I agreed. Because the worst thing a woman can do, when she senses danger, is pretend it isn't there. The moment I walked into the room, I felt it. Not fear. Recognition. She stood near the window, laughing softly. Elegant. Calm. Confident. When her eyes met mine, the world slowed. Her smile didn't fade. It deepened. Not friendly. Not surprised. Knowing. Daniel.
Amara, this is Leela, the colleague I told you about.
She stepped forward and extended her hand.
It's nice to finally meet you.
Her voice. I had heard it before. In another life. I shook her hand, forcing a smile. Amara. Nice to meet you too. But my heart was pounding. Like it was trying to escape my chest. As we spoke, I noticed things. The way she studied me. Like she was reading a book she already knew the ending of. The way she stood close to Daniel. Without touching him. The way she laughed. Only when he spoke. And when she looked at me. It wasn't jealousy in her eyes. It was patience. Then I saw it. A small scar near her wrist. My breath caught. I remembered bandaging that exact wound years ago. While apologizing through tears. I blinked. The memory disappeared. I told myself I was imagining things. After all, the past doesn't just walk back into your life, wearing a new name. Or does it? On our way home, I was quiet. Daniel noticed. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes," I lied. He smiled, eyes still glowing. "Lila's really impressive," he added. "She makes work easier." I stared out the window. Because suddenly, work wasn't the only thing she was making easier. That night, I tested something. Casually, I asked, "What's her full name?" Daniel shrugged. "Lila Hart." My fingers trembled. Because that wasn't the name I remembered. But it was close enough to hurt. As Daniel slept beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in the dark, a voice whispered, "You know her." And for the first time, I wasn't afraid of losing my husband. I was afraid of remembering what I had done. Because the stranger with the smile wasn't a stranger at all. Affairs don't always begin in bedrooms. Sometimes, they begin in conversations your spouse no longer has with you. That was how Daniel started slipping away. Quietly, gently, right in front of me. Daniel's schedule changed. Not dramatically. Just enough to matter. Meetings that ended late. Calls that couldn't wait. Messages answered with his back turned to me. When I asked, he said the same thing every time. Work is demanding. And I wanted to believe him. Because believing was easier than suspecting. One evening, Daniel came home exhausted. I asked him what was wrong. He shook his head. "Nothing," he said. But I knew that word. It meant everything. Later that night, I heard his voice from the balcony. Low. Gentle. Honest. "I've never told anyone this," he said. I stood frozen behind the door. Listening to my husband confide in another woman. Lila didn't interrupt him. She didn't judge or advise too quickly. She let him speak. She gave him what I had stopped offering. Space to be weak. While I had been busy surviving my own life, she had made room for his. And love often follows where comfort leads. At dinner, Daniel was quieter. At night, he faced the other side of the bed. When I touched his hand, he pulled away slightly. as if remembering something he wasn't supposed to feel. I asked him again.
Are you sure everything is okay?
He sighed.
Amar, you're reading too much in things.
That sentence felt heavier than an accusation.